Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. Ebony and Ivory here with you. Brock Ellis plays the position of the Ivory. I am the Ebony, Mark Hayes, number one in your hearts and on your programs. So let's get right to it. Signal Gate, it ain't going away. Brock, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing better today. I feel
Me
pretty
too.
good about a couple of things today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The first thing I really like is that Democrats are not taking this sitting down, right? We've got a lawsuit filed by a watchdog group, right? And that watchdog, that American Oversight watchdog group, is alleging that these buffoons are conducting all kinds of business over you know, um, these secretive apps that have the auto delete feature, right? These idiots, and we talked about this the other night because you mentioned it. You don't understand. You work for the American people. You have to create a government record for every government action you take. Brock, why don't these people know that?
They know it. Of course, they know it. This was in the Project 2025 playbook. Written in there, it advised them to use apps where they could delete the activity so that there would be no record of their actions. So this is a decision that's been made for the obvious reason, when people know they're up to no good or things that won't necessarily look good in retrospect, they cover their
Right.
tracks. So they're
Right.
immediately in cover tracks mode. So it's just not legal. It's just not the way the American government operates unless we let it.
No. And now what we're hearing is that Elon Musk and the folks at Project 2025 also thought this was all a good idea, but the Doji folks have been using these apps. Elon Musk said, I don't think we need to comply with any of these, federal government reporting legislation. We don't need to respond to that. We're not federal government employees. See, they want to have their cake and eat it too,
Both ways,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, they want to destroy the government, be able to not have any record of it, and then turn around and profit off that destruction. No, 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 no. That's not how this is going to work. And what I love is that the Democrats are out jumping up and down, screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs, you're not getting away with this. Because we know it's just more than this Yemeni act. I mean, this Yemen bombing strike. The other thing too, Brock, is remember who the state sponsor of Yemen is. Iran, right? So imagine if Iran had gotten a hold of this information from, oh, the Trump administration's special envoy who was in Moscow at the time this information was being shared,
And of
right?
course,
We would have lost a couple of amazing.
Iran is supplying drones to Russia, helping them in their war efforts. So there's no doubt they'd be sharing information. So if Russia got it, Iran would have it, the Houthis would have it. I mean, that operation could have easily gone sideways.
Right. Not that it didn't for the Yemeni people that were killed in it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you know
And
what?
what's
Not if you're living in the same apartment building of the girlfriend of the random one guy we were going after. If you were
right,
those other 100 residents of the apartment building, you're
right.
dead.
Right. And who, I haven't heard a lot about this terrorist, but why was he so high on the priority list, right? Other than wagging the dog, that we had to go after him at this particular juncture, right? 2 months into your, presidential, whatever you want to call it, your follies, right? And what is this guy's infatuation with drone strikes? He's always remember that Mar-a-Lago party where he was telling people about the drone strikes and the missile strikes and what is the guy's a psychopath. Can we just call him a
He's
psychopath?
a psychopath. He's a lunatic and he's a moron. But,
Yeah.
the reason why I like the fact that the Democratic politicians are making a lot of noise is because as much as there's battles in the courts, and at least that's kind of held so far, everything else needs to be fought in the arena of public opinion, right? This is a influence game. This is a getting the
Yes.
message to the people who only hear from Fox News and having things seep into their minds so that we build a bigger coalition and a bigger opposition and get more people, more feet on the street, right?
Right.
Ultimately, we'll win elections as long as we're having them, but if elections fail us, then it's going to be about a mass protest and a mass movement. So that's why we get so mad at the Chuck Schumers and all the politicians who are laying back quietly and just allowing things to happen and pretending like protocol and courtesy are the way to play it. But when you have to make noise to get through to the populace.
Right, right. And that's what the Republicans have always been good at doing, right? And so now here is the opportunity. And like you said yesterday, the language is a lot more harsh. It's a lot more direct. It's coarse. It's saucy. It's peppery, right? It's Tabasco hot, right? So let's get at these folks. Let's make them, defend this crap. We got to get Hegseth on Capitol Hill to testify, right? To see what he knew. Tulsi Gabbard was just like a deer in the headlights during the questioning. She got caught lying who knows how many times, right? Ratcliffe looked totally inept. Patel is a clown to begin with.
Yeah, he already
you can't even take him
right?
serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you can't even take him serious.
And Walls is the guy, and we got to get rid of Walls because he gets confused.
Go.
It's confused with our Walls, who we love, that they can't have like Walls also. But Trump's still sitting on this though. He's still deflecting and still trying to downplay it. Today was like blaming on Signal, right? Yesterday they're trying to blame the journalist, then blame Signal. Like they're looking for a way to deflect it, but there really isn't one. So I mean, they're just going to try to run out the clock here and just wait for it to die down, or I mean, they're going to gaslight. They're already in that mode.
Right.
But it's just I feel like it's making Trump look bad, and I feel like I saw something today, some of his approvals, dipping down again.
Good.
He looks inept. He looks out of the loop, right? Like he didn't even know what's going on. But that's what he thinks his best bet is, to say he didn't know what was going on.
Right. And Brock, how could he know what's going on? How many trips has he had to Mar-a-Lago already?
Yeah, I mean,
every weekend the guy's on the golf course by Friday afternoon, like noon 30ish. Like, how could he know what's going on? But my question is, who takes the axe for this? Who are they going to get rid of? My bet is it's Walls. He's the least recognizable. And, he's the one they could probably do without if they had to do without somebody. They need to put a lot into these other folks.
He's the easiest cut. He's an easy cut. He could be gone. The American public didn't know who he was, will never know who he is. He'll have come and gone. He gets thrown under the bus. Everything's fixed. That's the guy who invited someone. He actually is the problem, and we're gonna plug a better guy in here who just kind of and move on. They're letting the story linger, which is great for the left.
Right. And Rubio is not escaping this untouched as well, because he's being sued by this watchdog group as well, because he is the head of the National Records Administration. So he's got to, dude, this is your job, to make sure that all this information is preserved. You know how this works, Rubio, little Marco. You know how this works. And he's there shucking and jiving with these folks in this chat. He must have pissed himself when he realized that this was OPSEC not clean, right?
It's amazing they've let this
all his bodily function, because there's no way.
They all look so bad.
Yes.
Yeah, they all look so bad. Trump's looking bad. JD Vance looks bad as usual,
right.
which segues to the train wreck that has become the Greenland trip. Which started as just his wife. Then everyone disinvited them from any kind of public or official meeting. Then JD Vance got thrown into the mix that he was going to go over with his wife. Now they're just visiting one military base, but of course he had to go to a firing range and shoot off a couple rounds of Quantico to look like a tough guy before he goes to Greenland. But they're out on the streets kind of mocking America and basically saying, stay home. And that entire effort is, an epic fail now. It looks like just a bunch of bling idiots.
Yes.
And I mean, are they going to pull the plug on the whole trip? Are they actually going to go?
They're saying they're still going, last I saw. Last blurb I saw about an hour and a half ago, they were saying they were still going. Like, why would you? First of all, read the room.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get somebody to read the room? Like, they don't want you there. They don't want to become Americans. You're not going to war over Greenland, right? Like, we're not invading
But
Greenland.
Trump's still saying we're annexing it. And I guess to be the
We're
good
not
senior
annexing
vice
it.
president, Vance has to go and like be the representative of the pending whatever. What attack?
Right.
Like military attack? Our military's going into Greenland? No fucking way.
Not happening. Not happening. We're not going to Panama either, because I'm moving to Panama.
We're not going to that either. Which gets to the event of the day that makes me the happiest. I'm happy that Elise Stefanik has to go back to the farm in Western New York and take off those fancy suits. She thought she was going to be spending some time in Manhattan, living the high life. And now she's got to go back to the farm because the MAGA crew is worried about losing these special elections. And
Yep.
now they can't allow a special election in Western New York just in case they
Right.
lose the two in Florida.
Right.
But I'm surprised at the timing. I can't believe they didn't at least wait to see the outcome of what went on in Florida. They
But this
pulled
is
the plug on Stefanik in advance, and she kissed Trump's ass for 2 years to
oh my
somehow
God, yes.
get out of having to still represent the middle of nowhere, Western New York. And now she's thrown back, minus her power, because she was number 3 or number 4
Right.
house when she wanted to make this upgrade to
Right.
the United Nations, and I just love it. It couldn't happen to a finer young woman.
Well, isn't it awesome? Maybe she'll have some extra time on her hands. She can go and maybe teach an adjunct class at Harvard or something. Do something online with your time, lady.
But
You're not going to be doing town halls. We know
but
that.
it tells you how worried the
Hurry. Yep.
Republican Party is about the voters right now. They're afraid of the electorate, right? I know a poll came out today that they're 8 points behind, at least in the polls. We can only hope they're somewhat correct on the state judicial special election in Wisconsin that Musk is throwing millions of dollars at. And we know that everyone's been complaining about their candidates in Florida already, but those are like plus 30, plus 40 seats. But if they're worried about losing those, then they've kind of lost the entire electorate. And that means they know public opinion is against them. Will it impact any of their actions? That's the question.
Right. Right.
Will? Do you think it will? Or you froze on me on the question.
All right.
You froze just as I asked the question back to you, which was, do you think you got me now?
Yep. Let's
You
record.
froze just as you froze just as I asked the question, which was, do you think this fear of the electorate and the voters in any way is going to change the actions on the side of the Trump admin? Or do you think they're just going to barrel through and
Well, that's a
stay
great.
on
That's a,
course?
yeah, that's a great question. I think they're just going to barrel through because remember, the objective is not to win elections. The objective is to get paid. So, I don't think they really care about the electorate, right? Especially the poor electorate, right? I mean, look what they're doing to us. Look what they're doing to everybody. It's not just their electorate, it's all of us. So I think their objective is to get paid. I think their objective is to monetize the destruction of our government infrastructure, like Social Security, like the IRS, like the Treasury Department, in order to fill their own little greedy pockets and walk away with the treasure that's unimaginable. And it's funny too. I was watching a program the other night, and they said, behind every great fortune, there lies a great crime, and that really kind of stuck with me. And it makes sense when you start looking back at some of the, historically rich figures in American history, right? A lot of folks got rich off of slavery. A lot of folks got rich off of bootlegging. A lot of folks got rich off of the crack epidemic. So, historically, there is, there can be a lot of riches to be gained with criminal activity. And I don't think 2025 is any exception, especially when you think about cybercrime and how few people know how to detect it and stop it. And those are the people that Doge was targeting, for cuts, right? Let's get those folks out of here and open up the vault and let's have our way.
Yeah, funneling more money towards crypto also, things that are just,
Yes.
more untraceable,
Yeah.
untrackable, no regulation in those markets. So, no established players that you have to worry about, big banks and the like that would be maybe upset if they were getting fleeced, right? It's just kind of it's a mom and pop world of, renegades.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that aspect. And as you were saying it and saying like, oh, they're not worried about the electorate, maybe also because they don't really plan to have elections,
That
a
too.
midterm election. So maybe they're concerned about these special elections because they came up too quick on them before they have the full mechanism in place, the full messaging in place, that there's not going to necessarily be a need for elections going forward. And they don't really plan on going anywhere because they'll be so entrenched and they will have torn all the protections down for all of us. Right, they'll stripped everything away,
Right. And
and they'll
that's a
they
good
will have
point.
won the power game. Yeah, they're just not, they're not quite there yet. And the question just comes down to, if they're so worried about their electorate, that means they're worried about basically white people, and they're worried about white men voting against them,
Right.
right?
Right.
So like they worried that they're losing some white men. It seems obvious from the town halls that they are,
Hmm.
and they're seeing that. It's just, you would think they would throw them a bone just to keep them like from being angry, right? Just to calm them down. I don't. I'm just. It's just continue to surprises me. But Trump is the mad king. He doesn't. He's a moron. But he does have a certain sense for shit and the worst of people. So he'll find the worst of people to try to get them back on his side. So what worries me is more racial animus, more negative shit going on to people of color to get those white people back in the boat.
Right. And it's funny you mentioned that because that's where his marketing genius lies, right? His ability to get people pissed off at others. And he's been great at that since 2015, since he came down the escalator, right? And that's all he's relied on, is just playing to the worst of our inner selves. And it we don't need anything else, right? I mean, if the Democrats do their job and get on point with their messaging, right, and start connecting the dots for these MAGA folks in these traditionally red areas, which is why I think everybody should be, they should have 3 teams at 3 locations doing the rotation all weekend. Team
I
A.
did
Go
I
ahead.
did see that. I think it's Murphy from Connecticut, who we like what he's been doing, and Maxwell Frost going to Warren, Michigan.
Oh, are they?
So like
Okay.
that's an interesting barnstorm, right? But that's the kind of pairing we wanted to see: young
Yeah.
and old, white and black,
Yeah.
going into like auto, right? That's auto country,
That's
right?
auto
In Warren,
country,
Michigan,
right outside Detroit.
and they have to be pissed off.
Yes, yes. And remember, when you're right outside Detroit and you're in the midst of the automaking capital of the globe, I mean, there are so many other businesses that rely on the automaking industry, right? I have a fraternity brother whose wife went to high school with the guy who invented the cup holder. Right, he put a patent on it. He's got more money than God. But it's another business that had grown out of the auto industry, right? The people that make the little rubber uh, uh, piping that goes around the windows, right? That's an industry, right? The batteries, that's an industry, right? Tires, right? Lug nuts, right? All the stuff that it takes to put a car together, you have a lot of those businesses that are still around the Detroit area, right? Trucking, right? Shipping, right? All these parts. And the trickle down effect is massive.
Well, these
Massive.
tariffs are going to,
Eat them up.
devastate that industry. So basically, the message to those people has been, you're going to be sacrificed for this quote greater good down the
Yes.
road.
Yes.
You're going to feel a lot of pain right now. We're putting you out to be like, the
A
you're going to get
sacrificial
shot for,
lambs.
sacrificial lambs for this longer term play, which no, everyone knows Trump doesn't really think longer term, but so it's a ruse, but they're getting played. And they, I mean, we could sit here and say, I told you so, but we'll, we'll swallow that
Right. For
hard as
now.
well. We try not to because we're all screwed right now. And, I don't think that's the message Murphy and Frost will bring there, but it's an easy, it's kind of a layup
Easy.
message to bring there. Like, yeah, you're abandoned, you were played,
Yeah.
and, that's not what we're going to do on the left. Like, we're actually going to invest in American businesses, and we believe in trade and free trade because it's been beneficial to all of us.
Right. And remember, Kamala was with the guy who was marching on the picket line with you folks. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember that, right? Like, there was never a more pro-union president, right? We know Trump wants to be the union buster. He didn't even want to pay his own contractors, much less have to deal with the unions, right? There are people out there that took their lives because of what Trump did to him when they refused to pay. I remember all those stories. Rachel Maddow, in her prime, was telling these stories back in 2017, 2018, when we were hearing from all these people whose lives had been devastated by Trump and his lack of compassion for the people that were building and working, under his guise. And, it sickens me, that people, we grew up in New York, so we have a totally different, perception of his three-card monte game, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's the shell game, bro. Okay,
Yeah,
we
we
know we
knew.
can't win, right? Not with you. So, I really feel bad for the rest of the country that was hoodwinked and bamboozled by him.
But can this white working class, showing up at the Bernie AOC rallies, hopefully showing up in anger at the empty chair congressional town halls that have been going on in the last several weeks, can that voter look across at the black and brown brethren that they work with even and say, you're not my problem?
Right. Right.
I mean, you're okay. I get it now. Is there even, maybe there'll never be the I get it now. Maybe I keep wishing for that. Like, but will they even get just a piece of it? Like,
They've
that's
got you.
not the person that was screwing me. Like, that's not my enemy. It's this white supremacist group that is my enemy. They're coming in and tearing down America and tearing me down with it. I wasn't supposed to get torn down with it. I was supposed to move up the ranks as you pushed everybody else down. I was supposed to feel better in my social status here in America. Now you pushed me down with them?
Right.
Can
Right.
can they find a kinship?
Well, that's going to be
I'm
key.
still bitter at the team. I'm still bitter at the Teamsters for not endorsing Kamala when it was obviously should have for economic reasons, but obviously for quote social reasons, aka racism, misogyny, they couldn't come around and they sat this one out. And now they're getting screwed. Like, is a lesson learned? I'm hoping there's a lesson learned. And I'm glad we're sending. I'm glad we're sending some of our kind of firebrand types right into the belly of the beast, and hopefully they deliver a good message and keep opening some eyes.
Right. Right. And that's all we can do at this point. We told you so. We're telling you again. You're seeing it. You need to believe your lying eyes this time. And you need to vote for the people who are going to take care of you and your families. The people are eating the dogs and cats is not a better message than will help you buy your first home, right? I mean, because homes are going to get imagine what homes are going to look like in a year or two, the prices, right? We're building, things are so expensive. We're building homes for rent. We have full subdivisions down here in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, of rental property homes. Like, why would you, like, you're going to have to rent a house because you won't be able to afford to save for a down payment to buy one.
Private equity will own them all. They'll be the owners, and everyone else will be it'll be a nation of renters, right? So that's American, the American dream out the window. But the price is just going to stay so high because rates are going to stay high because inflation's still high, and banks are going to shrink the loans that they're willing to give out because they're looking at this consumer confidence. LinkedIn had a survey today. People are less confident they've been in like 20 years about their financial outlook. So the banks are seeing that. They're worried about what's coming down the road. They're going to raise their lending standards. Less people are going to get opportunity, and we're just shrinking down the opportunity set across the board. So more and more people are going to feel screwed and left out. The question will still come down to, is there enough, has it hit the white America enough right now that they're willing to come under the tent with Black America, Latino America,
Yeah.
LGBTQ America,
Right.
women, hopefully, certainly non-white women, but maybe even some white women start moving, stop voting MAGA.
Yeah. Well,
And
think about how it's going to affect white women too. They've got kids in college that are not going to be able to go out and afford their own homes unless you're in the, top, 3% of income earners in this country. Do you have the money to put down a down payment on a home for your kid big enough so they can manage the payment at the beginning of their career? Imagine how much money you'd have to put down.
College is going to be out of reach for a lot more people. DOE gets cut. The colleges themselves have less money. They can give less grants. They can do less things to help people get in. So college is going to become more elite across the board. But I just think like state schools, community colleges, it's going to be less of them, right? When there's no DOE and there's no money flowing, and the general populace isn't as wealthy, they're gonna, more and more people are gonna have to forego further education. Right? Coming down of America, all these things are stacking up. We still look at the elections coming up next week. Clearly, MAGA is worried about them because they sent Elise Stefanik back to the cornfields.
Sure.
So they're worried. Musk's throwing more millions at Wisconsin, so they're worried about losing that judicial seat, which may hopefully prove that it's not just about money, and the voters may feel a sense of power by winning against big money and beating Elon. Like, this is a chance to beat Elon Musk head to head, basically, or at least in a proxy battle. And then we get to April 5th.
Yeah.
And then we
really see. Yeah. And we really see how we'll get a good idea for how the nation is feeling, because there are, according to indivisible.org, roughly 10 to 12 protests scheduled for just on my side of 285, the Northern Arc side. I'm up on the north side of Atlanta. I mean, from Athens all the way west over to Gainesville and beyond. So that's just the top half of Atlanta. There's much more stuff going on down in the bluer sections on the south side of Atlanta. So, we're going to get a pretty good idea as to how people are feeling about this administration as a whole and about the future of America as a whole on April 5th and April 1st, for that matter.
Yeah. It's how many, and really curious to see what those crowds look like.
Yes.
Like, are they multiracial, multicultural, like integrated,
right,
angry crowds? And mainstream media won't cover it, so I'm hoping everyone's out there with their own cell phones and posting on Blue Sky and the like, to see what the crowds look like and see what what's being said out there. Because like you said, just mainstream media has ignored most of the feet on the street so far.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be too big to ignore on the 5th.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. All right, my friend. No practical jokes on April 1st because the joke we got run in this country is still there. So, um,
What could possibly come out and 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 be surprising? Like you got to double check everything already, and the absurdity. It's almost like there's nothing that couldn't be real, right?
right. It's crazy. You can't make this stuff up. You know, I mean, geez. Barney Rubble and Fred Flintstone could have put together a gang that couldn't shoot straight better than these clowns in this signal chat. It is ridiculous. Good Lord.
Wow.
All
All
right,
right.
friend.
Well,
Have a
today
great
was a
night.
good. Today was a good day. All right. Thanks, Mark. Always a pleasure.
All right, we'll see you soon. All righty, bye bye.